All right, welcome back to part 3 of my directory engine course, a step-by-step guide on how to set up a directory within our Ligna platform. If you haven't liked and subscribed, please do so. These are coming out in order. So in this video, we're going to go through and actually set the directory up. I have finalized my site, at least the bare minimum of what I want to do before I go live and start pumping data into this. But basically, if you've been following along on all the parts, I set up my navigation. I ended up actually creating a category drop down here, ended up adding a blog tab up here, and then kept that free consultation that we talked about. And each page is done, right? So each category page also has the CTA and the blog feed, which I don't have any blogs on yet. And one of the following videos will show you how to generate blogs and get those all set up and set up a blog within here. But today we're going to go through and set the directory up, set the user role up, and then come back to the site and set up the add listing and the sign up links here that I haven't done yet. So let's start with going into user roles. So you're going to come over here under controls and then user roles. So user roles, if you haven't watched that video, these are permissions that you can set for child accounts. Now, depending on how you want to set up your directory, if you're going to have multiple directories like I'm doing with title, where I have a home improvement contractor directory, I have a lawyer directory now, or at least starting one, and I don't necessarily want to set up a role for every single one of those different directories. I want to set up just a generalized role. And so what I did is I actually set up just a role called network listings. Now you can create additional roles for like featured listings, right? And so that would give you, let me make sure I'm on the right size here. I always do that in my videos. So I have one called network listing. This is going to apply for all of my directories. Now, eventually I'm going to have featured listings. And of course you could set up billing and charge for those listings. And of course, show them in different sections within your site. That'll be another course or another part of this course to really learn how to do that. But first off, just set up a new role, click on add new role, name it whatever you want. And then when you go into this role, you're going to want to only check off networks. You may be offering additional stuff too. You may want to offer the CRM, a light CRM, or additional features or functionality. In this case, I'm just doing networks. You could also prevent them needing to fill out all the information. Now for me, I want to get all the data I can, right? Because the worker technology is going out there and building the listing with the business profile information. We're leveraging our cadence system to invite them to the business owner to claim the listing. That's where you're going to get now their direct information. So I actually am requiring them to fill out all this information to claim their listing. This is not related to the listing itself. That's after they create their account. They can then generate a listing within their account, which we'll go over here shortly. So only permission that I have set up is networks. And then I'm actually setting the default lander to networks. So the default lander is basically when they log in, what do they land on? Do they land on a dashboard? Do you want to land on the CRM? In my case, I'm only letting them see networks, and the default lander is networks. I have a video back here that you can watch under support courses to really break down all the different permissions and how to use those and everything else. Like I said, I'm just doing networks. So once you set up your user role, come over here to networks and directories. This is where you're actually going to create a directory. Remember, as I was showing you the lawyer network, or lawyer directory, I already have listings showing up in here. But these are all my home improvement contractor listings. And the reason why those are showing up is because I haven't set this directory yet, or this website theme yet, to pull directly from a specific directory. I'm only doing it, it's basically all listings are showing up, right? So if I had multiple directories and I don't specifically tell the directory widget within the platform, within the site that I've created, that I only want listings from this particular directory, it's going to show all of yours, mashed up in here, right? And, I've only set up a home improvement contractor directory, so that's why you're seeing all those. So we're going to go ahead and click on directories. Now, before you do this step, you are going to want to define your URL, because there's settings that you have to do inside your directory to set this, especially if you're going to use claim your invite email templates and things like that. So I'm going to go ahead and click on add directory here, and I'm just going to call it Warrior Network and assign it to a workspace. I'm actually using workspaces this time. Click add. And inside your directory, you have several different settings. First setting is the base directory profile URL. What that is, in the previous video, I talked about the base URL for the profile listing. In this particular case, if you've done nothing, if you didn't change the page name and you didn't update all your links and all that from the previous video, it's just /biz. So I'm just grabbing this URL here. I'm coming back over here to the base directory URL, and I'm putting it in like that. Do not put a / in there. If you do, we append for that, but no /, so it's just like this. And then the second URL you need to supply is that directory category URL. So for example, if I were to click on the category itself, remember in the previous video, there's a page called C. Now that could be anything you want, but if you're not changing the defaults, it's just your domain /C. So I'm grabbing that and I'm bringing that into the directory category URL, and I'm setting that. Now the categories are global categories. We have thousands of categories of all different types of industries. Now, if you put categories in here, this is going to break down all the different categories, or only show the categories that you want to display. So how that's helpful is that, if you're using our default category list, you're going to get categories from automotive to retail to restaurants to everything. Now they'll still have categories related to their industry, but it's not specific to this actual directory if you're only doing certain categories like what I'm doing here. So in this case, I'm going to put in all the different categories that I have that are related to the directory itself. So let me go ahead and grab those, and I'm going to add them in right here. Now, when adding in categories, it's a new line for each category, not a comma, right? So just all new line. You can put as many as you want in here. I also have a list of every Google map category. There's plenty of lists online that you can grab. There's latest lists out there. I have a CSV file, so feel free to send me a message and I'll send you the link to that. I like creating the category specific to Google Maps, but that doesn't mean anything. You can create any type of category name that you want. And what this is doing, again, is when that business comes in and sets up their listing, they're only seeing these categories, which also helps with your linking strategy if you're creating static links to categories like we did on the previous videos and those types of things. But we have a global list of categories, and the idea obviously is to just show categories here that are related to the specific directory if you want to do that. Next, I'm going to apply the role. So this is why you want to set that role up first. That way you have the role in here and you can give them access. If you don't give them access, they won't have the ability, the business owner comes in and sets up a listing, to add their business to this listing. Now you may want to create different roles for each of your directories. That way they don't have an option of add or seeing those other directories. I like the option of them seeing all the different networks that I have that are available within title. Completely up to you on how you do that. You can get real creative with that with featured listings, or may have a grouping of listings where they have, you may have 25 networks and, a certain tier featured listing, role gets access to all 25 networks, those types of things. So you get super creative with it. And then next, I'm going to grab the URL. So this particular link right here, this is just going to add a user to this particular directory itself, but it's not applying a role. So you're going to want to append a role. So select your role and then go ahead and hit OK. And that's going to build your URL for you. Then you can hit copy. And so that's pretty much it. These are the only settings that you have right now. I have some other settings that I'm building into this, but this will get you going and getting your directory up and rolling. Once you have this link, now you're going to want to go back to your website and finalize your onboarding links, right? And so this link, and again, the next videos, we're going to talk about the email and sending out claim your listing links and those types of things. This is just the onboarding, add your business, to the network link itself. So let me go out here to templates funnels, which you may have built in CMS templates, and go ahead or CMS funnels and go into the builder. So now I have to update all my links for sign up. So I'm going to click on this link, then I'm going to click on the settings tab, and I'm going to replace that. I copied over a lot of the stuff I had on the contractor network. So, even though I'm using the same role, I do want all my listings being segmented into each individual directory, obviously, because I only want to show lawyer directory listings on this particular website. So I went ahead and set that. Now I need to do this link. So I'm going to change that one. And then I'm going to go down to, there's another link somewhere over here, right here, add your business. Add that link. And also in the footer, I have several links here. And then add listing. Okay. That is pretty much it on this set. Now remember, there's 2 different global blocks for your navigation on this theme, because the business profile page has a different navigation. It's all white. So I do have to go into my business page now and update those links, because obviously our global block only copied over to all the pages that are using that header. Now my footer is the same on every page regardless, but now I have to update my business page. So I'm going in, I'm going to click on the sign up again, click on settings and drop that in. Let me see here on the login. Nope, that's not set. So I'm going to put my login, which by the way, you should, before you do all this, you should have your own branded backend URL. Watch the video on the branding section under support courses, set your domain up. That's where they're going to log in. You may want to create your directory brand inside a parent account and then brand that whole thing related to that. I'm just using a name for my agency that makes sense or can be used for all these directories. So I'm kind of, making it super simple for me. I have one system all the way across, but there's all sorts of different strategies here. You could have, your backend branded, for your system account, you may have a different directory, each different names, and you may want to have parent accounts for all those. Doesn't matter, however you want to do it. And then I'm going to click on add listing here and set that there and go ahead and hit save. So now that I have my links and now that I have my directory set up and I have a role associated with that directory, now why don't we just go in and I'll show you what it looks like when you actually create a directory listing inside a child account or someone that's in a role. So on my other screen, I am basically logging into a sample account. Let me bring this over. And so after they register, right, because my role, when you're registered, it takes you directly to the network listing view. I don't have any other permission set, so they don't have access to anything else. You may want to do that. You may want to give them something free, anything you want to do, but this is the view that I have. They have their profile, all their fields in the profile, all your custom fields and profiles if you want to do that. But when they come and add a listing, as I was telling you before, they have an option of selecting a directory. Now, of course, if you are setting up roles for each directory and only allowing them to be in one directory, then they would only have the one directory. But in this case, I want them to see all the other ones, and I'm just going to do test lawyer and hit add. So what this is going to do is basically allow them to upload, and I'll actually go into the directory. I'm going to go back in. I'm actually going to create a listing that will show up on the site because we need to test that here in this video. But I just wanted to show you what that view looked like, and then here are the categories. So these are the only categories they can see. If you want to test that out to see all the global categories, do that. There's actually main categories and subcategories on the master list. In this case, it's just what you're seeing here. And then of course they can set up all their branding, content, different blocks there, social media. They can add as many photos as they want. But let me go ahead and get back out and show you. We'll start testing out a directory listing. So the first thing you need to do is obviously turn on your website to be able to see this listing. Now, if this is your only directory you're building, you're not building multiple directories, you would automatically see, provided that the city and state or at least the minimum information that was built onto the listing, you would automatically see it, because you don't have to set inside your website, you don't have to set the actual directory. If you don't set the directory ID in the settings, which we'll cover in just a second, it'll pull all your listings in your account and your child accounts within your network, right? And to test that, if you tested a listing, if you came over here to networks and listing and went ahead and add a listing, I'm just going to add one here real quick while we're testing. Let me do test lawyer. I'm going to assign it to the lawyer network, and I'm going to hit add. When you're testing this in your account and you've gone through the steps of setting up this website, it'll show on your website provided you fill out the information. However, if you have multiple directories, you're going to want to obviously set your directory ID in there. So before I do this, actually, why don't I configure this real quick? Just put some data in here. That way we can show when I set it on the website what it looks like. So I'm just going to do personal injury lawyer, 555, 1, 2, 3, address, Austin, and 0, and we'll just branding. I'll add, let me just add well, I'm lost in my directory here. Let me grab just a sample logo. I'll just throw the title logo in there. Featured image. So in your listing, when they come through on this particular theme, this is the featured image. So the featured image shows up here. All right, we did the default image. So this is a featured image. And then when you go into the listing itself, it shows up as the first one here. And this is a gallery. So when they come over here and upload, let's just put, here we go. Let's just grab that one as the featured. OG image, this is the image that shows up when you share the link. If obviously if the directory listing owner wants to do that and change that, they can. Content, just a bunch of stuff about us, but smaller. And even more, but longer. Whatever, right? About us. This is a little snippet that shows up here on the home page, right here. And then also shows up as an entry point to the actual listing. Let me go back. Social, just put in all your links, what they want. And then photos, click add photo. Choose file. I guess at this point I would have to include the folder in here. So I won't go through all my folders and do that, but you get the idea. You add the photos, it'll show up all the way across there. So that's pretty much everything that I need for it to show up in my website. So let me go ahead and go over to templates. Actually, I'm already here. So now what I want to do is set the actual directory for all these latest listings. And so you're going to see this little border right here. Click on it and then click on settings. And you have all these different options. Data loop type, don't worry about changing that. Matter of fact, if you change it, you'll break it, so leave that alone. Directory ID, this is the ID that you need to associate with what directory you want to use. So I'm going to go back out to my directory section under Networks Directories. And I'm going to grab this 1920 ID right here. And I'm going to come back over here and I'm going to set it there. Now I may want to use this widget somewhere else and only show a specific category. I may be building a landing page. This is where it comes into the categories that you can actually set by the city and the location, right? So if your category page, let's say you set up a page called, Austin, and inside you want to set the category to personal injury lawyers and you want to go and market this custom page, you can do that. I mean, there's a lot of cool things you can do with this. Role, this is where you'd set your role ID. So if you came over here and you went to user roles, and let's say you had a featured listing and you had a regular listing, just grab this ID that's associated with your role. You would come over here, wherever I'm at, this tab, sorry, and you would set that role there. Now, this is a little more advanced, but if you want to set, so if I set, you know, whatever the role ID may be, 2510, all right, that's the role. So that role ID is only going to show, let's say it's a featured listing, you had this at higher up on the page, it's only going to show ones that are associated with role 251. Now, if you want multiple roles, you just do bracket, the number, comma, the other number, and then close bracket. And that's it. Now you can have multiple roles. So you may combine, you know, more, you know, different roles for featured. You may have a client that has full access to the CRM, plus you're doing marketing services for them or whatever, and you want their listings to automatically be, you know, part of the featured and grouping. So you can do it that way. And then you also have the number of limit here. You can create as, you know, as many as you want to show out, you know, show in this area. In this case, I'm only setting the ID. That's my directory ID. So I'm going to go ahead and hit save on that. And now if I go back out to my home page, I won't have any of those lawyer directory, contractor listings anymore. And then here's my new listing, right? So it's only showing that. Now I need to do this not only on the home page, but I also have to do it on the category page. So I got to go into categories. And again, like I mentioned in the previous video, even though you could apply a global block to this, you're not going to want to do that because you may want to customize this based on each individual, listing. So you're going to come over here to this is where you're going to need your panels here, right? So here I can't see the directory pop up. So I'm going to hit my little layers and there it is, directory right there. So because of this particular design, the directory div is hiding behind this little, it looks like a drop shadow or whatever. Matter of fact, you probably could just click down here. Looks like, no. Yeah, so it's still hidden. So you would just hit the directory. So you could also do it this way too. You could just go up until you see, oops, clicking stuff I shouldn't be clicking. Till you get onto the actual directory itself. But that's where if you don't see the little word directory there, you need to make sure you're on the directory by clicking on the layers panel. Just depends on the design. Click on settings, and then here you go. I need to go back out to that 1920. I guess that's pretty easy to remember. And then I'm going to drop that in there. By the way, you can't add someone else's ID to this. If you try to do that, it only works as if it's within your network. So your IDs are only work on that, by the way. I set my category limit to 50 by default, but you could set to whatever you want, and I'm going to go ahead and hit save. So now this is pulling in specifically only, even though you should always set your directory, obviously across the board if you're doing multiple directories. Well, actually you should do that because I'm sorry, in the SEO video that I'm going to show you, there's a special sitemap that's going to pull all your listings, and you don't want all your contractor listings and everything else or whatever other directories go in there. So you should set your directory ID if you're going to have multiple directories on all these pages. So I've done the home page, I've done the category page. Now I'm going to do the results page. So all three of them need to be set that way. And then there's a fourth one that I'm going to show you in just a second. So again, I'm clicking here, clicking on the layers panel, clicking on directory, clicking on settings, and then I'm going to put in that 1920. All right, and I've already forgot. Yes, it's 1920. Okay, and then I'm going to hit save. And the next one I need to do is the actual business profile. So there's a little widget in the business profile that pulls in recent additions. What's actually cool about this widget too is it pulls in category-based and city-based. So it dynamically does that for you. It just enhances this listing with more content. And so you're going to want to come over here, and this may be the same example here where you can't actually see it because it's behind. So just click right there, click on the layers, click on directory. So you basically are looking for directory in the layer, even though you can't see it there. Click on settings, and then here, I'm going to do 1920. So you can see here that this is actually pulling the subcategory tag. That's where you could actually use tags dynamically inside here. This is already set for you. On my advanced training, I'm going to show you how to really use these tags in crazy ways, from markup schema to full-blown optimization, like unbelievable, what you can do with all these different tags and different options that you have here. But don't worry about any of that stuff. Again, we're just setting the directory ID. You may want to add more than 5. You may want to do 10. And I'm going to go ahead and hit save. All right, that's it. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. Once you have this set, the next stage is obviously the full-blown optimization, from the meta titles, the descriptions, to the interlinking. We're going to go through and change actual content based on the listing and content that's associated with categories. So make sure you like and subscribe. The next video is going to kind of close loop the whole website itself, and then we'll move into actually generating data. So appreciate you and look forward to seeing you on the next video.